Mr. Speaker, will you please call the House to order?
The bill is passed.
We'd like to get a budget that represents the interests of the people who are standing here with me now.
To be part of the struggle to achieve a better society for all.
Hello and welcome to Assembly Update. I'm Assemblyman Angelo Santabarbara, representative for the 111th Assembly District. And today I'm very pleased to be talking about an issue that's very important to New York State, infrastructure. And we've talked about this on the show in past series. And I would like to introduce my guest, who is John Foltz. Mr. John Foltz is a professional engineer. Like myself, we actually worked together years and years ago before I was elected to office. And since then, he has moved on through the ranks of ASCE. He is the Society Region 1 Director.
Yes.
John, we just are so happy to have you on the show, and we're following up from a press conference where we unveiled something very important to New York State, which is the ASCE report card on our infrastructure here in New York State. And the last time we did this was, I believe, 2015.
Correct.
Yep. And this new report card, let's first talk about why the report card is important and why we periodically do that.
Okay. So on a national level, ASCE does a report card every 4 years. And then they encourage every state to do their own report card, you know, and kind of dive down. The national's kind of overall for the whole country. And so they asked the states to do their own. So back in 2015, we did it, and then again we updated it here just recently. So lots of engineers involved across the state, and you know, different types of engineers as well. We've got structural engineers, civil engineers, geotechnical engineers. So just a wide variety of engineers getting involved in this, and you know, putting in their important information to it.
And the infrastructure categories are something that maybe people may not be thinking about in everyday life, but they're important to our state. Mm-hmm. What are some of the categories that we can highlight and perhaps talk about some of the areas that where we do need improvement and where where we have improved since the last report card and what the future looks like?
Yeah, so we tackled 11 of the categories. There's, I believe the National has 17 that they did. And it really comes down to the volunteers, you know. If we have volunteers with that expertise, you know, they did that. So there are a few topics that we didn't tackle just because we didn't have the volunteers needed and didn't feel comfortable, you know, with some of that. But yeah, there's, you know, rail, aviation, roads, transit. I know that's been a hot topic for you recently. Wastewater, solid waste. You know, we get into public parks, drinking water. You know, a little bit of everything.
And engineers from across the state work on this project, and basically they give what you would think of in school, a report card with letter grades. And I know we had a press conference where we talked about some of the investments that have been made in some of these categories. I know the last report card, I'm not quite sure what the grade was. It might have been a C- if I'm not mistaken.
So, yep.
But the good news is, you know, we're doing better this time around, and I think our overall grade was a C. So some of the categories have improved. Let's talk about some of the areas where we did see improvement. Okay. And we could talk about what that means, and maybe some of the areas where we still have to work on.
Yeah. So one of the public parks was one that increased a little bit in the letter grade, and it's all very similar to what it was back in 2015. I think with the IIJA, we're going to have more money available, which will be helpful. That's the big thing, you know. That's just not having the money to invest in these different categories. You know, we're basically constantly putting band-aids on, trying to get to the next step, as you know, and just, you know, trying to budget your money, you know, as much as possible. So yeah, the public parks was exciting that went up, and I guess the other one, transit has gone up a little bit, so that was nice to see as well.
And I know in the state budget process, we have seen some significant dollars even coming through from the federal government to invest in our infrastructure. And I think that we're seeing it takes a lot of investment to sort of move the needle,
Yes.
going from the grade we got last time around to now. It is improving. I think in this budget, there was some significant investment in roads and bridges.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll see those categories come up as well. The categories are, this is an all-volunteer effort, first of all, so we have engineers working on this, and it does take quite some time.
Yes.
And some investment of people's efforts to be able to come up with these grades. But how important, one of the things we touched on at the press conference was kind of being proactive as well. So not necessarily waiting, if something gets a good grade, that doesn't really mean we don't invest in that anymore. Let's talk about the engineering behind that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think our best grade on here was a B or B plus. So that's a good grade, but not necessarily a great grade. So obviously, we always want to keep going. There's some D's and D minuses on here. Those obviously are areas where we need significant investment. But yeah, even the categories with the B's that have the decent grade, you need to keep going, because you're just going to fall behind if we don't keep up with the maintenance. And that's the big issue we see across most of the categories is the maintenance.
And certainly with roads here in upstate, of course,
Yep.
we see that winter certainly takes its toll. So I don't know if that's ever going to be something that can be fixed and then left alone.
Yeah.
I think it's just an annual investment that has to be made in our roads and bridges.
Yeah, and that's one of the big issues that we see is the investments that we make yearly are not enough to keep up with the maintenance for that. So even though we've had a nice influx of federal funds, or will be having that, we're still going to be short. There's still going to be a shortfall for sure on that stuff. So we still need to we're still looking for new ideas, sustainable ideas to try to make roads last longer. And it's about the testing and trying new things and keeping it moving and constantly getting better at what we do.
And I know the wastewater category is a particularly difficult one. And I know in my district in Amsterdam we had quite a few issues that we had to address. Part of the reason some of the we're seeing some of the repairs that need to be made is because wastewater treatment plants in general, that was an investment that was made a long time ago. And some of the treatment plants that we're looking at have really outlived their useful life.
Yeah. Yeah, right now we're looking at about a $38 billion shortfall with in investments needed to upgrade our wastewater treatment facilities, and that's it exactly. They were designed, a long time ago for, we don't need to worry about this for a long time, and now that long time is here, and they're starting to fail, and and of course things are a lot more expensive now. So trying to upgrade them or fix up what they have. A lot of communities don't have a lot of extra money, so they're just trying to fix what they have, and it's a struggle.
Yeah, the time goes by quicker than you think. It's just like putting in a new road. You think it's all set. A couple of winters, all of a sudden you start to see that the road needs repairs already. But that's the harsh winters that we face here do take the toll on our infrastructure. One of the other things that we talked about, you just mentioned, is there's limited resources. Certainly in the state budget, there's a certain amount of dollars that go towards a number of things. A lot of that is infrastructure. But I think how important is it that we continue to get federal dollars to sort of supplement what the state is doing, because the treatment plants and a lot of the infrastructure was built with federal dollars, and now the state is stepping in to make these investments. But I think how important is it to continue to receive federal dollars in the future?
Well, and that's really what this report card is about. It's really a tool for the states to go back to the federal government and say, hey, this is where we need more money for roads, or we need more money for transit. That's what this is all about. It's not to smack somebody on the hand with a ruler saying you did this wrong. It's to say, hey, we're doing our best, but we need to do more. We need more money, and that's exactly. It's a great tool and that's what it was designed for. Is a tool to go back to the government to say, hey, we are falling short here. We need help. We need money for this.
And I think it's important to focus on infrastructure because when we started the show, as I said, a lot of people don't think about these things It's a lot of the stuff we're talking about. There are pipes that are under the ground that we don't see. When you open the water faucet, the water comes out. So you don't really think about them every day. But it's important to refocus on investing in infrastructure. It may not be something we see every day, and once the projects are buried and the roads are built, you just kind of use them and don't think about it. So I do see it as a tool, as a place where we could focus our efforts, where you can clearly see some of the areas, transit and wastewater need some more investment.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I hope legislators will be looking at the next time around. One of the things we mentioned at the press conference too, that may not be on this particular report card, but technology is always changing. So that means infrastructure is changing, pavements are better, piping material is better. Some of these investments will last longer than maybe perhaps some of the older materials that we used in the past. So the investment it's worth renewing.
Yeah, there's a lot of value engineering that can be done out there, and that's one of the things that from my business I've done over the last several years. Kind of turned towards a little bit of the sales side of things, but it is a value engineer type of products that are out there that can actually save money, or make the roads last longer, or things like that. And that's what we're constantly trying to do is get to some of those new inventions, those new products, that are going to help make things more sustainable.
And we also mentioned broadband and internet services. There is a category somewhere for that?
There is, yes. There is on the national level. We do have that category, and obviously there's a lot of areas that need some work with that. So this is the volunteers that we did have for the New York State report card. We didn't have enough volunteers to feel comfortable putting in a New York State section of that. But it's certainly with your travels, I'm sure you see it. I see it. I travel New York a lot. The cell service, and just thinking about the kids in the schools trying to get internet, especially with the pandemic, and it's kind of opened our eyes to this is, and people don't think about that as infrastructure, but that is part of the infrastructure.
Yeah, and I think that in general, technology has changed, and infrastructure needs have changed, and certainly trying to keep up with that does require more investment. And we may see some new categories on here at some point, but certainly over the past couple of years, with online learning and everything that's been kind of put upon our communities, all of a sudden broadband just became that much more important.
Yes.
So I hope to see continued investment in that. I know we've come a long way getting some of our upstate communities connected. Lastly, I guess I just want to talk about if people want to look up, where can they find the report card? Is there an online home for this?
Yes, yep. We do have a New York State website for the report card, and ASCE. If you go to asce.com, there's links to the report cards, to all the state report cards, and also to the national report card. For those extra categories that that we didn't touch on in the New York State, they are in the national one. So you can.
And it is important to note that this is a national effort. All states participating, so they can find that on the website and look up some more information.
Yep. So you compare to other states to see how how we're doing compared to them.
Great. John, I want to thank you for being on the show and for touching on this. A lot more information you can find online, and I encourage you to look and check out New York's infrastructure. I know there's been a significant investment in this year's budget, and hopefully there'll be more next year, and by the time we do this again, we can see some better grades as well and keep moving the needle forward.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for your work, and thanks to everyone that was involved in creating this report card. It's a very useful tool for myself and the legislators in the New York State Assembly and the entire legislature. Thanks again. Join us again here on Assembly Update, where we'll be talking about more issues like this that affect our community every day. I look forward to seeing you at our next episode of Assembly Update.